the Lonus.
The Lonus. Yeah, if it was actually Lownes. For some reason when I heard Lonus, it just automatically sounds like Lonus. The Lonus.
Like,
and then maybe it's
an alternate name for a kid, like not Linus but Lonus. Lonus, get over here.
It could be
Lonus
that.
also sounds like it could be a nickname for Thelonious.
Lonus. You have to say it in that voice.
It doesn't sound bad as a name. As a
Lonus?
name, I think that I should pocket it in case I'm ever doing a sci-fi thing and I want to have a name that sounds like a name, but it's not an actual like Earth name.
It sounds to me like more of like a phenomenon.
What's the Lonus today?
Yeah. What's the Lonus on that? Or maybe I'm just thinking of put the Lonus on. Put the Lonus on. I don't know. Maybe it's troublesome. How are you today?
Well, I feel glad that we found something else that's troublesome. I think it's one of the important things in life is finding out what's dangerous.
Yeah.
And the way you get clues on that is finding out what's troublesome. And now that we know that Lonus being close to onus is troublesome,
we can focus our anxiety there. Yeah.
And we can investigate possible solutions.
Yeah, sure.
Work towards a better tomorrow.
Yeah. You have a guitar behind you. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. That might be a bass. No, it's a guitar.
That's a bass. That's a bass.
That's a bass. That's what I meant by that being a bass.
People say it's a bass guitar, so
yes, that's clearly.
If
what
somebody
I was going
says that's a guitar and somebody says no, it's a bass, they're wrong. It is.
I've got it. Do I have a bass behind me? Can I do it? That is bass. Jeez. Okay.
And speaking of Lonus, that's where you get Lonus, is from basses.
You get Lonus. Yes, the bass has a lot of Lonus. You should see that bass's Lonus.
It's got a really nice Lonus.
How much are you playing guitar?
Some. I played for there's a big rally coming up for the Poor People's Campaign on June 18th. I'll pitch it here where lots of people will get some. In Washington, D.C., June 18th, there's going to be this great rally for the Poor People's Campaign. And there was a sing-along last night that I participated in a town that's about an hour away. Katrina and I drove up to participate in it, and it was nice. So I played a bunch of guitar at that.
That's cool. Wow, you're like... I like it. You just casually drop that off. It's like, hey, are you playing guitar? It almost sounds like our producer had handed me a card to be like, prompt him about playing guitar. Because you're just like, oh, well, last night I happened to drive an hour to this great get together and we'll be performing in DC and this big, it's like, like you were here to plug it.
Yeah, that's good. That was good. Good card reading. That was like a psychic card reading.
It was a psychic card reading.
The song leader, which is a thing, which I first heard about just a couple weeks ago from Anna Fogelman, who was telling me about. I was saying about how I like to do these things, these sing-alongs, and she was just like, "It sounds like because you're doing song leading, which is a big part of her life."
Yes,
and
not as a song leader, but knowing song leaders. I think I don't know that she's a song leader.
No, she did. No.
She knows
but
song leaders.
She's been involved in many. She's like song leading is something that she's been exposed to a lot.
It's a Jewish community thing. We have song leaders.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really know about this, so she sent me this.
Is that not everybody? Not everybody has song leaders.
Well, no, and it's actually kind of opening a door in my mind to the fact that
first, convert to Judaism.
Well, that seems to be the hard part.
I will take you.
She asked me.
I'll see. I'll talk to some people.
Sadly, no.
I'll talk to some people. See if we can get the expedited application. Yeah. We got you. I feel like the Christians do quite a lot of guitar strumming.
Probably. Yeah,
they used to on campus, at least.
But you've been part of what I've done before.
Oh yeah,
sort of like sing along stuff, and I don't know if if you would say it's the same, but it's very very secular.
Oh, but it's but it's similar. I mean, even I would have to say in Jewish guitarish settings, there's a whole lot of secular singing around a campfire type of stuff too. Well,
because she sent me to she said there was a link to a song leader boot camp. But there was a lot of stuff in there about learning songs in, help me, I mean
Hebrew. Sure.
Yeah, that sounds really ignorant that I wouldn't have been able to pull that. I was gonna say Hebrew, but for some reason I thought I might have something. But anyway,
It's like that panic, the like momentary panic before you're like, Tagalog, is that right?
I don't know what Tagalog is. But anyway, so it seemed like that wasn't the camp for me. But the fact that there is a whole,
Right.
There is a skill set and something, and maybe even something where if I could sort of put out a shingle and say, hey, you want this kind of thing at your party? But I would like to distinguish it. That's the whole, what I was thinking about. This also is a good cue for something that I was thinking about, because everybody wants to know what I'm thinking about.
Here's the cue. Tell me about that thing that you're thinking about.
Thinking about the duality of form and freedom.
I couldn't hear it because of your
because of the accent.
Yeah. Well, I think what just happened there is that was actually a real phrase, the duality of form and freedom. But then as it was coming out, you realized it was too something, erudite or something. So you had to like dress it up. Yeah.
I wanted
to dress it up with goofiness. So it's form and freedom, the duality of form and freedom. I assume you're going to explain what that means.
Well, I don't know if this is if a lot of people talk about this already. I'm sure it's not original, but it was original to me. This idea, so we have a bunny. Okay, we have a bunny, and the bunny lived in a cage for a little while. We felt really bad that it was like living all the time in a cage, and so winter was coming. The cage was outside, and we're like, we can't just leave that bunny outside. So we brought the bunny into our house. The bunny had free reign. The bunny is a delightful creature, beautiful animal, and all sort of like lounges in this sort of Egyptian kind of style. Very elegant looking bunny, but he poops all over the place. We could not figure out how to keep it. We sort of minimized some of it, but it was a real problem. And so finally, come the warming of the spring, we were getting better on the poop problem, but it was really not no end. It was prolific pooping happening. And so we put the bunny outside and we sealed up our back lawn. So now he has this whole big area outside, and we kept visiting him, and it just seemed like he was living his best life. He was just like, he's enjoying the heck out of this territory that he had. But then he started escaping in the last couple of weeks, and we were like chasing him around and trying to catch him, and then finding the holes where he's getting out. And so the lawn,
how did you know the bunny was escaped? I mean, you're not on full monitoring duty.
Well, sometimes there's a ring on the doorbell. Your bunny is in my lawn. That's happened. Other times I'm walking across, and I see there's a window that I can see part of my driveway, and the bunny's sort of like with that sideways one eye, sort of like looking at me, sort of being like, I'm here. And what we realize now is that the bunny wants to play. Like, this is like, because it's the easiest game of hide and seek in the world, and it's so frustrating for us, but it's so fun for him, because we try to like sort of herd him back into the yard, but he just hides under the cars where we just can't get him. It's just like really hard, and he's just like hiding there. This is great. And then we just like swoop things under to knock him out, and then he'll just run around and go back under the car. It's really, really frustrating. He's having the time of his life. It's extremely frustrating. This has happened several times. So we just see him, and he's out, and we get him back in. And at one point he escaped. We didn't know where he was for 2 days, and then 3 days later he was back in the lawn, and we're like, I guess he's just like one of these cat situations where they wander, and if he gets picked off by
he came back with a cigarette. He's like,
I've seen some things. But this is the structure of his containment, which we keep making better, no matter how big of playground you have. At some point you're going to come to the edge of that fence and sort of start getting more curious and more curious about what's on the other side. So but there's obviously some sense of safety and stability that happens within that thing, and still yet. So this is the representation to me of structure and freedom. You want to have no constraints, but actually no constraints is a sort of a scary life. You want actually to have some.
Well, this reminds me quite a bit of childhood and adolescence. Of having that security of childhood and constraints, and then adolescence, and you get to the ends of that fence, wherever it is, and then you want to get out there. Maybe I'll just stop there. I was going to keep going into adulthood, but it's too hard to trace the metaphor into that territory.
Well, now you're doing it for your kids. But then we also do it for ourselves, though.
But we do it for ourselves. I was thinking you sort of want to come back to some structure, don't you? After enough
you want
years
structured. And the reason that I've thought of it was because the song leading thing, I've seen a lot of song leading that I'm sort of like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to get trained for something that isn't me, but yet there's probably lots of wisdom being gained by these people who do it all the time that I would really benefit from. So like, this is the structure and freedom thing, where it's just like, the scary thing about the structure is, what if you get indoctrinated almost sort of slowly and subconsciously into things that if you had seen them fresh, you'd be like, nah, thanks. I'll choose a different door. But because it happens sort of over time, then you sort of like allow yourself because you think it's fine. But like, you've lost that perspective of like, that's not really me.
I think that's what happens. This is a bit of a strange association, but I think that's what happens with style, with local style. So it's like, you don't really notice it happening, but after 10 years, you dress more like the people around you in your area. And that's how areas can actually have dress codes. I think about this some because my area has the worst dressed people, I think, of anywhere. And there's some pride in that.
Berkeley fans.
Yeah. But it just over time somehow gets in your subconscious. So, and then you find yourself going out like as schlubby as possible, and you're just like, how did this happen? And you don't realize until you see someone, even from across the bay, San Francisco, who looks respectable, and you're like, what has happened to me? But I think it's just like little
exactly
by little by little. What I'm talking about. But yeah, man, it's a great idea. This is sort of forehead slapping to not have thought of this before. There's a thing called song leading. Of course there is. I know some great ones, some who do it wonderfully. You would be a great fit for that. And there's a lot of settings you could do it in, but what a fun endeavor that would be for you. I'm sold.
Yeah, well, that's the question. If I could sort of do it in my own way. The one thing I was saying to Anna was that a lot of the song leading that I've seen has more of a focus on inclusion, which I think is great. It's a wonderful thing. But
I like to do it focus on exclusion, which is like you.
I like a lot of people to gather in a circle and be ready to sing and then don't sing, and it's just me singing and they listen. No, that's not it. No, I really like it. But my focus, I think, is in making it beautiful. And sometimes I feel like in these song leading sessions, it's more about just like, it's not really a concern about making it beautiful. It's more just like, let's barrel through and learn this song, and then we'll do the next song, and then we'll do the next song. And it's more like everybody's participating and it's got a structure.
Why do you care about making it beautiful? Or what do you mean by that?
That's the juice. Like that's
like the song beautiful, like it has to sing, or like the moment has to feel beautiful, or like, wait, let's do it again so that we can
we can get the sparklies out.
I see.
The little sparkly lights.
No, that's like that's not the song leader vibe right there. Let's do it again.
Right. So you're agreeing. So I'm not just making it up. That seems like a secondary concern. Whereas even last night, so I went to this thing. There wasn't that many people, and the song leader was there, and you could sort of tell that she's just like ready to do the things. And there was just a couple of times where I sort of like, I don't know, I sort of...
You're like, let's run it back. Let's run it back.
Well, there was a couple of running it backs, but there was also just like a way... There's a thing you can do with the guitar, is to sort of like set the stage, but then leave these long breaks, and so then all of a sudden you just hear a lot of the harmonies coming through. And it was nice because we had a bunch of people who had beautiful voices. So all of a sudden, because it was set up in a certain way, these voices came out, and then you start to get a little sparkly, sort of the beautifulness, and that's the juice for me. And so I don't, it's not like I feel like there's anybody ever saying like, we want this to feel like a Mack truck, but it does sort of sometimes do that. So I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, anytime that you are going for a certain something, you're great making in your own way, I think that's good. And it's going to lead to a product that some people really love, and it doesn't have to be for everyone. Some people might want your just like messy campfire sing along, and some people might be there for the beauty of the music. And I think, people find their level, and they find their spot that feels good for them. But I think like even that excitement that you just got about like, this is what I want, and here's where the tinglies and whatever, I feel like anytime you have that kind of instinct, you just go for that, that's great making.
Yeah. And maybe my question, maybe it's good to talk about it. My question might be maybe more of a marketing question, that when you put a certain label on yourself, like if I were to say I'm a song leader, and then people were like, I know what that is. This is this campfire stuff. And there's a lot of people that might be like, no, thanks, including me,
Right.
I'm generally, when I think of campfire singing, I sort of feel turned off by it.
Yeah.
But not when I do it. It's just not that sounds really, I don't know, self-centered. But
no, not at all. I think the thing is, you just start by doing, you don't start by marketing. And then you do, and then something happens where it's like, oh, that was pretty good. But you know what? Some people showed up for, and then you realize, oh, let's just add a word when we talk about what we're doing, which is like song leading for beautiful harmonies or something, and
song leading for beautiful people.
For beautiful people.
You know who you are, and
if you know who you aren't. This ugly or below. No, and I think you just adjust as you go. Each time you just add a word, you take away a word, or people just pass the word along, and then it forms its own community. I was thinking, when you're talking, I guess I've seen a whole lot of song leading now that we're thinking about it. It's been so there for most of my life. It's sort of I'm taking it for granted. But even so, there's this sort of like song leading community we were talking about. But even like there's these people around here. I was thinking, when I was young, Bobby McFerrin was here in the Bay Area, and he had created a whole
next door neighbor, and he used to ask me over to sing all the time. And
although he did, Bobby, he did come over to my family's house for dinner once. That's actually true.
What?
Yeah. I was like,
you might have actually told me this before, but yeah, that's amazing.
I was like 11 or something. House? Well, yeah, he was at a show. I was at one of his shows. He was at one of my shows. I was at one of his shows, and he used to always do this thing where he invited a piano player from the audience to come up, and then he would sort of sing along, and he would like crawl on the piano and play with the person's face and stuff, and it was sort of funny. But I played piano back then, and I was all ready for it one time, and so he asked for participants, and I threw my hand up, and I came up and played, and he mostly didn't mess with me at all.
How did it go? You were probably entertaining enough. Probably the messing with people happens when the kid is not entertaining.
When you're an 11-year-old kid that's playing Lullaby of Birdland, that probably is good enough. And
what is Lullaby of Birdland?
It's a jazz song.
This is a good time for you to just go back to your piano and be like, well.
I almost could remember it because it used to be such a go-to. But it take me a while to even spin that thing up.
Spin up the turbines, the memory turbines.
No, I mean,
that's amazing. So did you feel happy about it at the time? Were you ecstatic? Were you like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, or this is my first? You weren't. Wait.
I enjoyed it.
Was it bad? Did it go badly?
Were you
embarrassed?
Well. I've always just performing is always. I never. It's not too high of a high. It's like a really enjoyable time. I was like,
it's like a good ham sandwich.
I've never been.
I wouldn't say it's like bacon and eggs, but I mean, good fresh mayo.
I've never gotten too high or too low for performing music. It was just always very comfortable for me. And I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's great.
I played, like, arguably when I was in high school, I played some of the bigger concerts I've ever played. We opened for the Grateful Dead once, my high school jazz combo, and people were like, "Are you nervous?"
He came over for dinner afterwards.
No, he didn't, but he was there. They didn't call it the Grateful Dead; they called it Phil Lesh and Friends because it was all acoustic. Anyway,
and also because Gary Garcia was dead.
No, he was not. He was living.
There?
He was there.
You said he was there.
Yeah.
Dead, not yet dead.
Not just in spirit. Yeah. But they cleared us all out of the backstage for Mr. Garcia's entrance. I can't remember. I'm on 3 rabbit holes on this story. Anyway, I wrote a letter to Bobby McFerrin. He called once, and we chatted. My parents invited him over. He came over with his family. It was lovely. Then we've seen him every once in a while since. He lived in Berkeley? He did not. He lived in San Francisco.
No, it's not that far. He didn't catch a plane to go to your house.
No, that's true.
He took a plane to come to my house.
Why did we get into that? Because he had this group. He used to do all these sing-alongs. In fact, he's back, I think, in the area now doing these sing-alongs again. But it's more that vibe you're talking about, which is like singing for beauty. And I think they do it. Man, come visit and be part of this thing and see what you think. But that's a scene, you know, and some people like that. And if they want to go sing for beauty, they'll go to that. And if they want to go sing for campfire, sing along, or have beers or whatever, they find those groups. And I think it's fine, you know.
I like beers and beauty.
Beers and there you go. There's your marketing right there.
Just for the record, I do like some messiness. I'm not going for like pitch perfect.
Yes. I'm sorry to have accused you.
I want the feeling we understand. of my sing-alongs to be like the little, what do they call the little flies that light up? Are those fireflies?
Yes, they are.
Fireflies.
I mean, you're the East Coaster here.
I want the fireflies just
coming. You don't have fireflies where you are?
We do. If you just blanked on the name. For some reason, I was about to say fireflies. I was like, no, that's not right. That's the name of a movie.
Is that offensive? Well, it's cool when you lean forward. Your hair is just doing this really cool, like flying out the back, like you're in the plane.
Hold on.
It's awesome. You've got the hair. It's flowing. Is what you were going for.
Who knows? Was I going for it? I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's that you're totally right in that, but I did feel inspired last night. I was just thinking to myself, I just gotta get a night and start playing. I'm wasting away in
a night
bed.
To perform,
like a regular thing where I'm not afraid to play this for people. And just be like
doing it for the playing, for the singing.
Do it, and just the possibility that somebody will walk by and say, "Oh, that's cool."
Well, it's a service to be the person who gathers music together to happen. You know, the person with the idea and the drive to organize it, and then for whatever the mental sort of whatever that is defect to sort of like get obsessed about songs and just want to learn them, and like that's a real, I don't always get there, but that's a real happy place for me, just learning songs and especially trying to like, I always try to like fix them a little bit, so I'm always like, how can like this song is like burying what's good about it, how do I come and bring that up a little and just obsessing about these little details. That's nice.
A happy place for me.
I've been feeling sort of wistful about music because I was so into it. You remember I was doing those keyboard songs, and then I had all those other songs that were like more produced songs, and now it's been so long since I've done any of that, and it's been taken over by other creative stuff in my brain.
Wait, how was the vote was last night? What happened?
Yeah, we can talk about that after. It went our way. It went our way. But yeah, so it's been taken up like stuff like the vote. But I just sort of like it's almost hard to be like, wait, what happened to all that energy, that like musical energy that I would have, energy to go sit down and like do these things, and I was putting stuff out. It just feels gone, Yeah. And it's part of it is just like, if you're not going on a run once a week, you don't think of yourself as a runner, you start to not think of yourself as a runner. And when I do run once a week, or I have been, and I think of myself as, I run once a week. So running is familiar. And then if 3 weeks go by where I, for some reason, don't do it, or I'm out of town, or whatever the thing is, I start to think that I'm not that person. And it's interesting how quickly that happens, where like right now, I don't even feel like a musician really. But if you ask me about it, I'd be like, oh yeah. And at some point I know it'll come back around, and then it will be really, it'll like seeing an old friend, you know what I mean? It'll be a warm feeling when it comes back. That's but great. It's sort of, it's so distant when it's distant.
I wonder what is the role of other people in that. For me, it's true. Like what I was just saying. Like I get really excited about learning songs, but sometimes I don't. There was a time where I got really excited about writing songs, and like right now, that's a distant friend. Like I don't even know
Interesting.
how to do that right now. And I've been thinking I should be writing songs, and I just I know there's lots of people out there saying if you're struggling, like do this, this, and this, and this, and I'm just like I don't even want to hear it.
Right.
I don't know why that is, but I do think that other people, like somebody showing me, there's different kinds of interest, right? When some people there's this sort of like, oh, that's nice, you should do that because you like it. That's not inspiring at all to me. But every now and then, I'll do something, sort of maybe out of nowhere, and somebody will just give me the face of sort of just like, oh, sort of surprised, a little bit in a pleasant way. And that'll jumpstart my engines, and I'll just be off to the races for a little while. And if I get those little encouragements, I'll keep going. And if it goes too long without those encouragements, I think that's what kills it for me. Whatever it is. Is that anywhere like that for you?
Yeah. Yes, it is. I think we all, creative people, need what they need, and people need different types of encouragement. So I can go into long tunnels operating on my own internal encouragement. But then it's sort of like you got to pay the piper at some point. So then I come out and I present it to the world, and then the collective indifference shatters me. And I think you may look up more often for small encouragements, look up from your work for small encouragements.
Yeah, and get shut down much more often because of the lack thereof.
Or maybe you're not putting as many eggs in the final basket, So I think I think there's something liberating about just also admitting what you need as a creative person,
And that's, I think, why, this is a conflict in my own brain too, is the idea of having a regular Tuesday show at the local bar is my latest. This thought comes and goes, but that's the latest. It's come back, this idea that, let me just get out there and just play for 4 people, because just then there's more of a chance that some stranger, I do feel like I play better for strangers. If somebody's heard everything that I've done, I feel sad to give them the same, do the same thing again, like play just a song that they've heard before, which they might be fine with, but for some reason I feel like this is not going to be quite as new and surprising. So anyway, but I feel guilty for the fact that, like, the reason that I want to go and play in front of people is because I am looking for feedback from other people, especially strangers. There is something about people that know you that just doesn't, then it becomes, people are sort of like, I can't help doubting this. It's like, these people are just being nice.
Yeah. Like,
put me in front of some strangers, and then that reaction is so much more satisfying. But it feels like, that whole, the whole, it seems corrupt as an artist to, like, oh, you shouldn't be doing it for other people's approval, so therefore you're not a real artist or something.
Right. But that's what I was saying. I just like the idea of just being like, this is what I need. It's like plants need air and sunshine and water. That's what it feels soil.
Like. That's the sunshine.
Yeah. And maybe it's the sunshine or maybe it's the water or whatever it is, but like, it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong or admirable or inadmirable. It's just like the plant grows based on the right combination of nutrients, We all just got to know. We maybe that's part of the job, is to learn how our plant grows.
Yeah. And how do you do it? How do you get what you need without imposing on others? And that's what I think the whole sort of like why I feel so compelled to go out and be in front of strangers instead of. Like I'm like tonight, I think I'm playing music with a bunch of friends. But that's not the same. That just doesn't give the opportunity for, the chance that some random person.
There's a different mix. There's something nice about people who you don't know, in some way when you're performing. Yeah, there's something really nice about it.
And yeah, I think it doesn't a lot even of people matter. Who think that they don't need it, they probably are getting it. They're either getting it without asking for it, so they sort of lucked into it. So they're getting the vitamin. They're like, "What? Who needs that vitamin?" It's just like, it's because you're getting it.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who are like, don't get it, and they're just like, it's not important, and they sort of like,
yeah, and they're also
not
just
that person, and they're like, who cares?
There might be people who just don't need it, who are just like, they're just going to sit there in their room playing all day, every day, and singing, and that's what makes them happy, and that's great. But it doesn't mean that everyone's got to figure out what their own formula is. I think that's the only way, because you can't like sit there being like, why am I not like so-and-so? It's just like, you are who you are, and you bring the combination of things that you bring, and you have the combination of needs. And again, just like everyone has a formula, like what's a formula that for me allows me to produce, to create and produce and put things in the world. And if part of that is playing for strangers, a part of that is I need encouragement, or, I gotta like hide this behind a wall until I'm ready to put it out, or, until I've done the next thing. So I don't feel as fragile about it. I think, there's no award for like toughing it out to the point where you crash and crumble. It's just like that. I think the award is for doing whatever it takes to put something into the world.
Amen.
That's a good. Maybe
that's a good closer.
That's a good. Maybe we close then.
And broadcast.